Hey, my name's Margot. Last year, I changed my status to Mrs. and added a wedding band next to my collection of courtroom victories. Slinging arguments before a judge, that's my zone. But dang, I never thought I'd need a defense strategy for family dinners. So, let me put you in the picture. My man, Tom, he's a mama's boy, and I get why. Mrs. Walters, his mom, is the queen bee of their hive. Did the single mom hustle, brought up 2 kids solo. Mad props for that. Sarah, his sister, well, she's another story, thinks she's the center of the universe or something. I remember walking into their place for the first time, Tom's arm around me like he's showing off a trophy. The living room's like a shrine, photos of Tom and Sarah plastered on every surface. It's cozy but feels like stepping onto a movie set where they've been playing house for years, and suddenly I'm the unexpected guest star. Mrs. Walters came at me with this tight-lipped smile. You know the kind, the one that says, "I'm smiling because that's what I'm supposed to do, but I'd rather be scrubbing the bathroom grout with your toothbrush." Dressed in one of those floral numbers that just screamed I'm the matriarch. "Margot, dear, Tom's told us so much about you," she said, sizing me up like I'm a car she's not sure she wants to buy. "Yeah, I've been looking forward to meeting the famous Mrs. Walters. Tom's done nothing but sing your praises," I said, trying to thaw the room a bit. "Oh, how sweet," Sarah chimed in. She'd been eyeing me like a hawk since I walked in. "Tell us, Margot, how's the lawyer life? I picture you in court, like on TV, making bank." "So how much do you actually make?" I almost choked on my spit. Who asks that straight out of the gate? I laughed though, 'cause what else are you gonna do? You know, trade secret and all that," I shot back, not missing a beat. Mrs. Walters picked up the baton like it was a relay race. "But surely you can give us a ballpark figure, for family." Tom shot me that please don't be mad look, but I kept my cool. "If I had $1 for every time someone asked me that, I'd have enough to change the subject," I parried, topping it off with what I hoped was a disarming smile. Mrs. Walters snorted. Yeah, she snorted. "Well, it's no secret what a teacher earns. Right, Tom?" "Mom," Tom sighed. "Let's not do this now." Right, she said, waving her hand like she's dismissing a servant or something. "Anyway, you'll be like family now, sharing is caring and all that." I slid a look at Tom. His help-me face was on full display. I knew then I wasn't just marrying Tom, I was enlisting in some low-key domestic Cold War. Couple weeks in, and I'm standing in our kitchen, apron on, pot simmering, trying out Mrs. Walters' famous chili recipe. Now, Mrs. Walters and Sarah have got this routine. They drop over unannounced like they forgot it ain't their house. "Your chili needs more heat," Mrs. Walters picks at the ladle like she might catch something. "And less salt. Watch your husband's blood pressure." "Got it," I reply. Inside, I'm rolling my eyes so hard I'm seeing my brain. Sarah's there too, all leaned back on a stool like she's the Queen of Sheba. "You see this spot, Margot? Cleanliness is next to godliness, isn't it, Mom?" Mrs. Walters nods like it's gospel and Sarah's high-fiving herself in her head. "Funny, I cleaned this place this morning," I say, swiping the spot off the counter. "Must have missed that one." Tom's in the other room, clueless, probably deep in some video game or sports stats. So, I figure it's high time to fill him in on the home invasions. I poke my head in where he's slouched on the couch. "Hey, you got a sec?" "What's up, babe?" Tom flicks his eyes up for just a moment, poor thing, like he's afraid he might miss a crucial play. "Your mom and Sarah, they come in, take over, nitpick everything I do. It's like they're looking for stuff to complain about," I let it tumble out. Margot, they mean well, you know? They're just..." Tom scratches his head. "I'll talk to them. They'll chill out." Back to the kitchen, and it's like walking into the final round of some cook-off where I'm the only contestant and the judges are out for blood. "So, Margot, when's dinner?" Tom must be starving. Sarah glances at me like I'm the help. Whenever the chili decides it's ready, I shoot back, but I keep my voice light. It's a tightrope walk. Dinner lands on the table, and I'm scanning their faces. Mrs. Walters stirs hers around, inspecting every bean like it holds the secret to the universe. Bit different from how I make it, Mrs. Walters finally says. That's code for nice try, but you're no match for me. Tom dives in though, bless him. Babe, this is awesome. Right, Mom? Sakai, Sarah mutters, and Mrs. Walters just shrugs like she's agreeing with the worst food critic. After they leave, Tom's slapping his belly, saying it's all good. I'm watching the door shut behind them, feeling tiny, like I'm losing at some game I didn't sign up to play. The next time they pop over, it's the same old tune, like nothing changed. I must have been dreaming to think a few words from Tom might turn the tide. Still, I ask him to talk to his mother about boundaries. I thought getting hitched was the hard part. Fitting into Tom's family? That's the real challenge. They've got their own idea of family, and I ain't in it, yet. If this is what married life is like, count me out of the honeymoon phase. It was one of those days where the clock seemed to tick slower than syrup drips from a bottle. That's when my phone decided to sing its little heart out. Glancing at the caller ID, my heart sank. It was Mrs. Walters. Again. Margot. Her voice was stern, and it did nothing for my headache. You think you can just snatch Tom away from us, huh? Her words stung like vinegar on a paper cut. I glanced over at Tom, hoping he'd at least flinch at his mother's tone. Nothing. He's glued to the TV screen, a statue with heartbeat. Mrs. Walters, it's not like that. We're just trying to set up some boundaries, I said, my voice squeezed thin. Boundaries? She fumed. That's just a fancy word for shutting us out. You can't do that to us, to me. He's my son. As I blinked back frustration, Tom still silent, looking like someone shrunk his spine in the wash. Listen, it's normal for married folks to want their own space. I tried to keep the edge out of my tone. Space? He's never needed space before you, came her sharp retort. Her voice was a buzzsaw and each word carved up my patience. That was when Tom decided to pipe up, but not to back me up. No. Mom, is everything okay? Margot's not, she's not being unreasonable, I guess, he said, but his voice was like wet cardboard. Tom, I just can't believe this. First, Sarah tells me Margot is making a fuss over our visits, and now this? Mrs. Walters sounded wounded, and boy did Tom jump on that note. Sarah said that? Tom turned to me, eyebrows raised as if I was the one creating trouble. Yeah, she did. And I think she's right. Family is family, Tom. You can't just turn your back on us. She pressed harder, knowing she was reeling him in. I saw my husband, a man I loved, deflate like a party balloon 2 days after the fun. The call ended with promises of another family meeting that felt more like a summit to discuss the terms of my surrender. After the call, it was as if nothing happened. Tom settled back on the couch, resuming his championship in channel surfing. Mrs. Walters resumed her drive-bys, each one a masterclass in thinly veiled jabs. And Sarah? Well, she might as well have been a puppet master the way she got Tom's ear whenever she pleased. When word got back to me that my husband's sister, Sarah, was running her mouth about me all over town, my blood boiled for a second. But I didn't let it get the best of me. I knew I had to handle this the right way. So, I waited for the right moment to deal with Sarah directly, and that moment came sooner than I thought. I found Sarah at the market on a Saturday morning, filling her basket with groceries. She didn't see me at first, but I walked right up to her, steady and strong. Sarah, I said. She looked up and rolled her eyes. What do you want, Margot? We need to talk. It's about the stories you've been spreading. She snorted loudly, a smirk spreading across her face. Stories? I don't know what you're talking about. The rumors, Sarah. About me. Emily's bossy, Emily's this and that. Cut it out. She laughed, tossing an apple up and down in her hand. And what are you going to do if I don't? You think you can boss me around? I kept my cool. Listen, spreading lies isn't just mean, it's slander. And I won't stand for it. Sarah laughed again, louder this time. You're gonna sue me? Get real, Margot. You ain't got the stomach for that. People's reputations are at stake. I'm serious, Sarah. Keep it up, and yes, I will take legal action if I need to. The arrogance just poured off her as she leaned in close. You're in way over your head. Little Miss City Lawyer gonna take me to court? This isn't a joke, Sarah. I'm giving you a chance to stop this nonsense before it gets serious. She shoved her face closer to mine, a challenge plain in her expression. Bring it on, Margot. Do your worst. With that, she spun on her heel, almost knocking over a display of canned beans, and left me standing there. Her laughter echoed through the aisle long after she was gone. I walked back home slower than usual, turning everything over in my mind. Later that day, when my husband came back from wherever he'd been, I told him what had happened. He was in the middle of taking his boots off and he froze, one boot off, the other still on. You did what now? I told Sarah off. I threatened her with legal action if she doesn't stop spreading rumors. His face went red, then white. You couldn't just let it go? Why'd you have to stir the pot, Margot? I straightened up. Because it's not right, and I won't be walked over. Not by her, not by anyone. We were silent for a good long while after that, both of us lost in our thoughts. It was clear this was more than a little family squabble, it was a line drawn in the sand, and I had to stand my ground. He's got nothing. Just stands there with that same lost puppy look that's growing a permanent spot on his face. I tossed myself onto the couch, fuming. The gossip might calm down for now, but Sarah, she's the kind of weed that keeps sprouting up. No tellin' when she'll start her yapkin again. And Tom? God knows if he'll ever find the guts to stand up to them. Right now, though, I just need to cool off, figure out my next move in this messy game they're all too eager to play. The whole mess with Sarah had me weighing my options like a pros and cons list in my head. I mean, I signed up for a life with Tom, not a daily soap opera with his family. And with things going from bad to worse, the D word started rattling around in my brain like loose change in a dryer. Then, as if on cue, Mrs. Walters, the town's self-appointed gossip queen and Sarah's godmother, rings me up. Margot, dear, she chirped like a bird that spotted a worm. We're throwing a little shindig for Sarah's engagement. It's happening at Luigi's next week. We'd love to see you there. The tone of her voice was all fake nicety, the kind that practically screams I dare you to show up. I'm staring at the silent phone after hanging up, thinking how this invite smells like a setup. Tom's already on edge, and now this? I couldn't help but blurt out to him, guess who's got plans for us next week? He's sitting at the kitchen table, forehead creased like he's trying to iron it out with thought. Who's scheming now? Your sister's engagement party, I say flat out. We're invited, courtesy of Mrs. Walters. His face goes a shade paler, the crease deepening. Oh, hell. Yeah. Oh, hell sounds about right. So, what's the play here, Tom? We gotta roll over and play nice, or what? He's quiet for too long, and I'm not having it. Come on, spit it out. Tom finally looks up, his eyes are all serious. Margot, it's family. I think we should go. I cross my arms, feeling the heat rise up my neck. And let Sarah have a field day? I'm not their punching bag. He throws his hands up, a little too dramatic if you ask me. What do you want me to say? That's my sister, Margot. I lean in, my own hands flat on the table. And I'm your wife. Or does that not count for much these days? The D word is right there on the tip of my tongue, but I bite it back hard. Tom runs his hand through his hair, making it stand up like he's just had an electric shock. Of course, it counts. Look, I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place here. I'm a heartbeat away from losing my cool. Well, guess what, sweetheart? So am I. I married you, not your constant need to please your family at my expense. Tom stands up, walks over, and takes my hands. They felt like rough grip paper, all work and worry. Margot, I love you. I do. And I hate that it's got to this. Let's not go to the party. You and me, we're a team, right? It struck me then that this was the first time in a long while he'd picked me over them without flinching. It felt like finding an oasis in the middle of the desert. That night, the thought of divorce quietly tucked itself away, not gone, but sleeping, sort of like a dog with one eye always open. But it was enough for me to catch my breath, to maybe believe that we could find some solid ground again. Luigi's was hoppin' when we showed up, walls throbbing with too loud laughter and clinking glasses. I spot Mrs. Walters right off, sitting queen bee style at the biggest table with that I rule the world look. There's Tom's sister, Sarah, all grins like she's won the lottery, and her guy, Mark, a sort of deer in headlights type trying to smile. His folks are with them too, stiff and awkward like they wandered into the wrong movie theater. Mrs. Walters zeroes in on me the second we step in. Margot, she uses, like I'm a 5-year-old who's not playing nice. You'll be taking care of the bill tonight, right? To show you're one of us. I just about spit out my drink. What? Why me? The table's all ears now, and the air's thick with that "oh, this is gonna be good" vibe. Mrs. Walters stretches her smile. Tradition, sweetheart. The newest family member always shows their commitment. My jaw clamps shut so fast I'm surprised I don't chip a tooth. Commitment? That sounds a whole lot like a shakedown. Everyone's perked up like hounds hearing a whistle, and there she goes, Mrs. Walters puffing up like I've slapped her. Excuse me? That's uncalled for. Tom leans in, his voice barely more than a spit of sound. Just do it, Margot. It's not a big deal. A big deal? I fire back, whisper turned to a snarl. No thanks. I ain't no one's piggy bank. He's hissing now, real quiet but clear. Pay the damn bill, Margot, or we're through. I mean it. My laugh's as sharp as a snapped wire. You're not serious? He's all stone face and tight mouth. You think I'm playing? I stare him down. Divorce over this? He's all, family first, Margot. I'm shaking my head, and where do I fit, huh? It's showdown time, and even Mark and his parents are watching, their faces screaming what the hell's going on? I push back my chair and stand, let them all get an earful. No, I ain't doing this dance, I say, voice like a hammer on steel. There's shock on their faces, some whispering, some wide-eyed. Tom's going red, white, red, like a stoplight losing its mind. Mrs. Walters looks like she might choke. I walk out into the night. It's black and cool and smells like freedom. I hear the door slam behind me, my heart's doing a 100-yard dash, but it's Tom who flung the D word, not me. The bar was nothing special, just another hole in the wall with dim lights and the smell of old beer. I had barely settled with a glass of something strong when my phone rang. It was Tom, and for a moment, I considered not answering. But I did. Margot, listen, I'm sorry. I didn't want to say divorce. Tom's voice was rushed, apologetic. Before I could even think of a response, Sarah's voice blasted through. You've ruined my engagement dinner, you selfish. The phone must have changed hands so fast my head spun. I could practically hear the venom in her voice. In the background, I heard Mrs. Walters, loud and clear. Why should I pay? He's your son, you pay the bill. I won't have my daughter married into a family that doesn't know how to treat. The chaos from Luigi's was spilling through the phone like a bad sitcom without a laugh track. People were arguing, and it seemed like nobody was keen on picking up the tab. I pushed away from the bar, my anger lending me a clear, calm voice. Sarah, chill out. Your mom's the one making a scene, not me. Hang up, Margot, Tom said, now a faint whisper behind his sister's ranting. No, she needs to. Sarah kept going, but I wasn't about to play this game. I ended the call. The screen showed a string of missed calls and texts that I swiped away. They were probably all about the same thing. Guilt, blame, the usual. I looked at the bartender. Another one, please. He nodded, pouring another shot without a word. Silence settled around me, except for the low murmur from the regulars scattered around. I tried to collect my thoughts. My phone screen lit up again, showing Tom's name. The guy just didn't know when to quit. I flipped the phone face down, letting it go to voicemail. It was futile to talk when the whole crew was going off the rails back there. A few drinks later, the door to the bar creaked open, and in came a chilly gust of evening air. But I didn't look up. It didn't matter who was coming and going. I thought about what just happened, what it all meant. Here I was, sitting in a bar because my family-in-law decided I was the bank. And instead of understanding, my supposed partner turned it into an ultimatum. I finally picked up my phone and typed out a text. Tom, we're done. Sarah can think what she wants, and your mom can deal with her own damn bills. I won't be part of this circus anymore. Just as I hit send, the phone rang again. This time, I shut it off. I was tired. Tired of the arguing, the demands, and above all, tired of feeling like I was alone in a partnership that was supposed to have my back. When the room finally stopped spinning, and my head felt a little clearer, I knew what had to happen next. It was time to start looking forward, even if I had to do it on my own. No more games, no more being the scapegoat for a family that couldn't see past their own drama. I walked out of the bar, leaving the noise and the night behind. The air was getting colder, and the city lights were starting to blur into the coming darkness. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, it was mine to take. What a mess that last evening was. The whole thing at the restaurant blew up bigger than anyone thought. The groom had had it up to here with the drama and ditched the engagement right then and there. Sarah's face when he dropped that bomb, I can't even. No one saw it coming, least of all her. Then the mother-in-law went off the deep end. She was screaming like some banshee, causing such a scene that the groom's folks were ready to dial 911. Disrespect, she was yowling. No consideration. It was chaos, the kind of thing you see on those trashy daytime shows where chairs start flying. Meanwhile, I was done. I filed for divorce and cut phone ties. Tom and his calls? Ignored. His messages? Deleted. The last I heard, him, his sister, my former mother-in-law from hell, they're all holed up in the same house, probably driving each other up the wall. As for me, it felt like I'd finally stopped holding my breath after years underwater. Life's simpler now, but that evening's still the talk whenever I'd bump into people from the old circle. It gets old, you know? So here's the update, for anyone who still cares, I'm living my best, most peaceful life. I'm sitting in my usual spot at the cafe down the street from my place, the one where the coffee is strong and no one asks too many questions. The barista gives me a nod. The usual? He asks, like he's asking if the sky's up. Yep, I say. That's what my days are like now, no fluff or meddling in-laws. Work's a breeze when it's just that, work. Free time is mine to enjoy without a side of guilt trips or obligations. I curl up on my couch, that one piece of furniture that's followed me through all the moves. The springs are shot to hell, but it fits my back just right. I flip on the TV, watching some crime show where they catch the bad guys by minute 40. The peace is what gets me. Not eerie or lonely, just peace. Breathe in, breathe out. No more walking on eggshells or cleaning up family feuds. This is living. When I hit the pillow each night, it's with a sense of I did it. No pat on the back needed. I know my worth, and finally, I'm living like it. I'm eating my lunch when the phone dings. A message from a number I don't know. Probably Tom, using someone else's phone to reach out. I delete it without reading. Not today, Satan, not ever, actually. They used to say, you'll regret this. But here I am, not a single regret in sight. The day drags out, cozy and fine, and it ends with a glass of something smooth and a book I've been meaning to read. The heroine's tough, but fair, reminds me of someone I know.